Alyssa Thomas, knee in the groin, and here she comes. Fist on the throat. Knee in the groin, fist on the throat. Alyssa Thomas doing what Alyssa Thomas does.
Body language doesn't lie. And what we just witnessed in this 100-109 loss to the Phoenix Mercury is one of the most blatant examples of targeted physicality this season. That is not a standard basketball play. That is a sequence where a player is taken to the hardwood, followed by secondary contact, with zero intervention from the officiating crew. No whistle. No flagrant review. Nothing, but that physical sequence is just a symptom of a much larger organizational disease, currently tearing this franchise apart from the inside out.
Shoots a three. A player on the Phoenix Mercury gets into her landing space. Caitlin Clark comes down on her foot. No flagrant called. Caitlin Clark comes up, holding her back.
Now watch the mechanics of this specific closeout carefully. In any other professional basketball league, invading a jump shooter's landing space is an automatic flagrant penalty because of the severe risk it poses to the offensive player's ankles and knees. Here, the defender steps directly under the shooter, creating immediate trauma on the landing. When your primary ball handler is repeatedly knocked to the hardwood without consequence, the entire offensive scheme breaks down. The spacing required for teammates like Aliyah Boston to operate in the post, or for Kelsey Mitchell to find her rhythm on the perimeter, completely evaporates. But, as we are about to see, the lack of a whistle wasn't even the most disturbing part of this entire sequence.
These are terrible, but the worst part of all of this, Caitlin Clark got kneed in the groin, throat punched, landing space no call, and Stephanie White sat there on the sidelines with her arms crossed, tweaking, sniffing, twitching.
That sideline reaction tells you absolutely everything you need to know about the current state of the Indiana Fever's leadership. Head coach Stephanie White has repeatedly told the press that she rides with her rookie point guard. But in professional sports, leadership isn't measured by what you say during a scheduled Tuesday morning media availability. It is measured by your willingness to take a technical foul, to storm the court, and to demand accountability when your player is being subjected to non-basketball plays. The stark contrast between the physical punishment happening on the floor and the passive, arms-crossed posture on the sideline reveals a fundamental disconnect between the coaching staff and the realities of this roster. But the on-court dynamics pale in comparison to what was allegedly happening behind closed doors with the medical staff.
Care about is Caitlin Clark leaving the game with a back injury. The same back injury that Stephanie told us wasn't an injury. The same back injury that they tried to hide until they got called out about it.
And this is where the narrative shifts from poor officiating to potential organizational malpractice. For weeks, fans and independent analysts have questioned the visible back braces, the gingerly movements during warm-ups, and the sudden drops in second-half minutes. Yet, the official team narrative consistently pushed back, labeling these absences as routine load management. According to unconfirmed reports, this lower back injury was deliberately downplayed to protect ticket sales and maintain leverage for upcoming broadcast commitments. They actively tried to hide the reality of the situation until the physical breakdown occurred on national television, leaving them no choice but to confront the truth, because here is what this means for the immediate future of the franchise.
You got John the Liquidator in the building reporting. Amber just got up and went to Caitlin Clark in the back. You have Kelly Krauskopf getting up, going to Caitlin Clark in the back.
When general manager Kelly Krauskopf and the front office personnel abandon their luxury boxes to rush down the tunnel, you know the situation has escalated from a minor physical tweak to a full-blown organizational crisis. That visual of management scrambling in real time perfectly encapsulates the dysfunction surrounding how this team manages its most vital assets. That we are talking about a league that is currently experiencing an unprecedented economic boom, consistently shattering viewership records, and occasionally crossing the 3.2 million viewer threshold on major network broadcasts. This massive influx of revenue and attention is largely driven by a very specific demographic of new fans tuning in to watch high-level perimeter play and elite spacing. Yet, the product being permitted by the officials often devolves into a localized wrestling match, Where established veterans are apparently granted absolute immunity from the rulebook, the cumulative effect of uncalled landing space violations, blindside screens in transition, and extracurricular physical contact away from the ball isn't just about losing one regular season game in June. It is about a documented systemic pattern of physical attrition. The officials are purportedly instructed to let the players dictate the physicality of the game. But when that philosophy directly jeopardizes the health of the players driving the league's economic growth, the entire business model comes into question. This lack of protection completely unravels the Indiana Fever's half-court offense and roster development. The Fever's offensive rating plummets drastically when their primary facilitator is forced out of the lineup. When she is constantly picking herself up off the floor, the offensive rhythm for the entire starting five is shattered. You cannot run complex pick-and-roll actions with Aliyah, Music, Boston. And you cannot create the necessary weak side gravity for Kelsey Mitchell to exploit mismatches when the defense is allowed to legally assault the point of attack. This brings us directly to the coaching staff's alleged complicity in this crisis. The refusal of the bench to draw a firm line in the sand regarding player safety sends a chilling, demoralizing message to the entire locker room. When a coach prioritizes maintaining a polite relationship with opposing veterans over advocating for their own roster, they lose the respect of the locker room. You cannot demand maximum effort on the defensive end while simultaneously allowing your players to be targeted without offering any vocal or strategic pushback. And then there is the handling of the medical transparency, which might be the most damning element of this entire saga. The timeline of this back injury, Music, is highly problematic and raises serious ethical questions, according to unconfirmed reports and the timeline established by independent beat writers. This lower back issue has been lingering for a significant period. When reporters previously questioned the load management narrative, they were met with defensiveness and, in some cases, restricted access. By allegedly attempting to conceal the severity of the injury to maintain their leverage in the daily news cycle, the front office severely compromised their players' long-term health. The massive disconnect between the medical staff's daily reality and the public Relations Department's coordinated spin has created a toxic environment of complete distrust between the franchise, the media, and the fan base. The national media apparatus covering the WNBA bears a heavy responsibility here, as well. For the first half of the season, prominent analysts at major networks willfully ignored the visible physical toll being extracted on the court. Instead of analyzing the concerning officiating trends and the lack of flagrant foul reviews, they chose to focus their daily segments on manufactured locker room drama, outfit choices, and generic league growth metrics. They chose the comfortable, league-approved talking points over the uncomfortable reality of a player being physically broken down in plain sight. That we also have to acknowledge the underlying locker room politics driving these hard fouls. There is a documented, palpable tension from the established old guard of the WNBA toward the new wave of highly compensated, highly visible rookies, while intense competitive fire is expected and welcomed in professional basketball. The line between aggressive, playoff-level defense and a malicious intent to injure is becoming increasingly blurred, and allegedly, this extreme physicality is happening with a quiet, unspoken endorsement from certain powerful circles within the league, who resent the sudden shift in media attention. With the current collective bargaining agreement set for a massive overhaul in the coming years, player safety and officiating standards are going to be at the very center of the revenue-sharing negotiations. The league office cannot simultaneously market these young stars to secure billion-dollar television rights deals while turning a blind eye when those same stars are subjected to dangerous closeouts and unprovoked contact. The math simply does not work out for the league's long-term financial health. The Indiana Fever organization is now staring down a critical inflection point that will define the next decade of their franchise. You cannot build a perennial championship contender around a generational offensive talent if your head coach refuses to advocate for her safety, and your front office prioritizes short-term optics over honest, transparent injury management. The current strategy is fundamentally broken. Something major has to shift in Indianapolis. Whether that means a complete structural overhaul of the coaching staff, filing formal, aggressive grievances with the league office regarding officiating standards, or executing a radical shift in how the team manages daily media access and injury reporting, the status quo is completely unsustainable. You cannot serve two masters in professional sports. So, the definitive question has to be answered right now by this front office. Are they simply overwhelmed by the unprecedented magnitude of the spotlight currently shining on their franchise? Or is this a calculated, deliberate decision to appease the league's veteran establishment at the direct expense of their own roster's health and future success? Because you cannot have it both ways. Let me know exactly who you think needs to be held accountable first in the comments section below.